I'm Sydney Turner. I'm a Rockford native, lived here my whole life. I'm a metropolitan planner with RMAP. I focus on bicycle pedestrian planning, transportation alternatives, as well as performance measures. I'm going to hand it over to Colin now.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Steve, also. My name is Colin Bell. I've been with RMAP for about 5 years now. I originally moved here from New York to work on the Vital Signs project, which was a sustainability project for our region. I, too, am a metropolitan planner with RMAP as well. So just really quickly, we're going to go over who we are as an agency. Again, we're RMAP. We're the Rockford Metropolitan Agency for Planning. We carry out federally mandated transportation planning duties for the region. We perform day-to-day planning functions, long-range planning for the region. We serve parts of Winnebago, Boone, and Ogle County. We don't serve entire Ogle County, but the northern portion. We are governed by a board of 6 elected officials and 2 appointed officials. As you can see the list right here, it's the City of Belvedere, Boone County, IDOT, City of Loves Park, Village of McChesney Park, City of Rockford, Rockford Mass Transit District, and Winnebago County Board of Directors. So first we're going to talk about Greenways planning. So Greenways they're defined as a natural corridor of land which connects existing areas of open space. These create a network of green infrastructure that links together parks, preserves, wetlands, unique habitats, and other environmentally sensitive areas. These areas span both across urban and rural areas, of course. This provides an opportunity for the natural circulation of plants and animals throughout our region and allow them to move from one habitat to another habitat. The built environment is obviously a big obstacle, roads being one, neighborhoods, et cetera, and these greenways really provide that regional link between the parks. So what's the purpose of greenways planning? Why does that matter? Why does RMAP do this? Well, first off, it's to promote a regional greenways network that, again, this protects our natural, our cultural resources. It provides alternative forms of transportation as well as recreational benefits. This enhances the environmental and the scenic qualities of our region and helps stimulate economic development. A good example of this would be some of the companies in the area that have actually located along some of the paths that we have to help their businesses. So what are the objectives of greenways planning? We've got a map and we've actually got a written plan too. So some of those objectives are, it's a regional resource guide for hiking, biking, kayaking, boating, and it helps promote tourism in the region as well. By people having a greenways map, it shows them where everything is that they might want to go check out in the region when it comes to outdoor recreation. It's also used as an educational tool in some of our local schools too. For agricultural preservation, conservation, protection of sensitive resources and properties, Boone County, they have agricultural preservation districts that are specific to that region, and those are highlighted on the map and of great importance to them. It's also used as a property acquisition tool. So these are some of the things that people don't really understand what the map does when they look at it. To them, it's just a map. But for a lot of our planning agencies, like the Rockford Park District, the Forest Preserves of Winnebago County, this map is more than that. It's actually used as a priority acquisition tool. It allows them to apply for grants to get properties that they didn't have already, and it also allows them to plan for future trails as well. Through the transportation process here, we have something that's called PEL, Planning and Environmental Linkages. This is a collaborative and integrated approach to transportation decision-making. It's a requirement of us as a transportation planning agency to look at bicycle and pedestrian planning, not just from the recreational standpoint, but also as a mode of transportation. For a lot of individuals, some people don't have cars. That's their mode of transportation, and others, that's what they choose to do because that's the type of lifestyle they want. So we've got to remember that it's not just for recreational use, that a lot of these bike paths and these systems that we have are used to get people around as a transportation method. Here's the Greenways map. This is the most recent edition. It was about 2 years ago that it was updated. It was about a year-long process, actually. Prior to this, it had actually been done through a consulting firm. We then brought the product in-house into our map, saved a lot of money by doing that, and not to mention on top of that, we've got a much better product. It's produced now by local planners who know the area, they know the trails, they know the region, and if they got a question, they know who to call, they can go out and look at that system and make sure that it's correct. If it's somebody planning from outside the region, they might not have those connections to be able to do that. So again, this is the Greenways map, and It's a wonderful tool. You see that light green color on there? Those are sensitive environmental areas. It does not put any restrictions on those properties, but those are generally areas that have some type of environmental sensitive area on them that would make them a priority acquisition. Most of the properties that you see along the Kishwaukee River, the darker green colors, those were acquired through the process of Greenways planning. And I'm going to hand it over to Sydney now.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of go over the update process for our current bicycle and pedestrian regional plan. So this started about a year ago in spring 2016. It's done completely in-house. The previous current plan out there, which was done in 2008, was helped with a consultant. So we kind of taken over this process and done it all internally in-house. So some of the things that we'll be doing with the plan is updating the existing conditions, what new design standards that may have come out in the last 10 years, and really just give a comprehensive update to our plan. This is all funded through federal and state planning funds. It's funds that we get federally to do things such as bicycle and pedestrian planning. We anticipate this to be done in late spring. So some of the elements are listed up here. As I mentioned, it's a complete comprehensive update to it with the new practices and policies. We have a focus on complete streets this year, and that is basically looking at all the aspects and making sure it's accessible to everyone of all abilities and ages. Making sure that the roadways aren't just for motor vehicles, it's also for pedestrians, for bicyclists, for shoppers or visitors or all those things. So it's kind of looking at that overall corridor. We're also incorporating what is called the Bicycle Friendly America's 5 E's, and this is a designation given out by the League of American Bicyclists. In the future, I hope that our region can kind of go towards this effort. So it's looking at engineering, education, enforcement, encouragement, and evaluation. And those 5 E's are what goes into a bicycle-friendly community. We're also redoing the prioritization of long-term and short-term projects, so that will be a huge component of ours. We'll be using ActiveTrans Priority Tool. It's a software that you input projects and all the data behind it, and it kind of gives you a ranking of what projects you should be looking at. So part of the update, we had a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee. It was an ad hoc committee formed by RMAP. It included county health departments, local colleges and universities, park districts, young professional groups, bicycle advocacy groups, community advocacy groups, as well as venue and entertainment authority. There was 5 meetings total. We looked at vision statement, goals, objectives, and priorities, and kind of reviewed that with them. And this is the vision statement that we decided for our plan. So it says, the Rockford metropolitan area envisions a community provided with a diverse and safe active transportation network of interconnected, continuous, and accessible system of sidewalks, bicycle facilities, and trails throughout the region. This network will foster a culture of safety, health, awareness, and recreation to enhance the quality of life for both residents and visitors through promoting active transportation alternatives. Based off of those, we came up with a set of 5 goals that have a series of objectives tied to each of the goals. Our focus was safety, infrastructure, collaboration, funding, and education, encouragement, enforcement, and evaluation. So safety is focusing on decreasing the number of pedestrians and bicyclists injured in our region, as well as increasing safety through awareness. So what are the laws, what are the rules of the state of Illinois regarding pedestrians and bicyclists? The infrastructure is about connectivity, making sure that it's an interconnected system. You don't want to go on a bike ride and end up a dead end. So making sure that all those connections are happening. Where do people actually ride bicycles, and really look at that connectivity infrastructure behind that. Collaboration is making sure that everyone is on the same page. So what one group is doing is well aware of what another group is doing, and making sure that we're working together to create a better bicycle and pedestrian network for our region. Funding is really looking at how do we increase the funding in our region for these projects. Federal, state funding, we get some of that, but what are some of the other ways we can kind of incorporate new innovative funding into our region? And the final one is back to those 5 E's. of the bicycle friendly. So what kind of programs can we have to encourage bicyclists in our region? What kind of programs do we have in our education system that increases the safety, increases the awareness, and really looking at those different aspects. Part of it is updating our existing bicycle network. So what we have is a map that was collaborated with all the different agencies that we work with, so most of the city governments, as well as the county governments, the park districts, any agency that really has a bicycle network in their area or jurisdiction. So this is a smaller version of a map that is actually on the side over here, if you want to take a better look at it. And it kind of shows where some of these connections need to happen. So it's a really great evaluation tool. Also part of this is doing a bicycle or a pedestrian suitability index or walkability index. And this is looking at the actual sidewalk infrastructure and where sidewalks should be placed or should be upgraded. So we're looking at things such as intersections. Are there crosswalks at certain intersections? Should there be more crosswalks? Also looking at road segments. What roads aren't suitable for pedestrians? So is there a truck route on that road? Is there also what is the traffic volume? You know, you want to make sure that where we're putting sidewalks, where we're putting pedestrians are safe for them to be at. And so I'm going to hand it back over to Colin, and he's going to kind of talk about some of the recent projects that we have received funding for.
Thank you, Sydney. All right, let's talk about some of the funding opportunities that are available through RMAP. So at the federal level, we have what's called RMAP's Transportation Alternatives. We use a lot of acronyms. We call it TAP. So this is a program set aside for the region at the federal level as part of the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. Again, another acronym, STBG. Also at the state level, there's the ITEP program, which is the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, and some other options too available through RMAP are Safe Routes to School, which I think a lot of people are familiar with already. There's a walking school bus program to Lewis Lemon. I think that it's been expanded some other places since then as well. That was something that RMAP was very involved in at the onset of that project. Also, the Department of Natural Resources, you can use sales tax, motor fuel taxes, et cetera. And then, of course, always at the local level, too, there are funding opportunities through the local municipal governments that can set aside money through CIPs and things like that, of course. So let's talk about some projects in our region, some recent projects in our region that have to do with trails planning, and we'll talk about some of the funding that was used to make that happen. So if people don't know these projects, that's great. You're going to learn about them now. So we have the North Alpine Road Multi-Use Path. This, in August of 2014, the Village of McChesney Park was officially awarded $620,000 by RMAP's Policy Committee through ITEP and TAP, which we just discussed. This process was to implement the North Alpine Multi-Use Path. The awarded TAP funds were matched with $155,108. McChesney Park was local funds used to do that. So this brought the project total to almost $750,000 there. These projects, I will say up front, do have a match requirement. So we give them this money, the $620,000, that's 80% of the funds. The other 20% is required by the local municipality or government to fund that project. So you still have to have that money set aside at the local level in order to be awarded some of these big dollars. So it's a really interesting process, and it just shows that the municipalities really need to have these projects ready in the pipeline in order to apply for any of this money to begin with. So this path, it's improvement that begins at Roosevelt Road, and I believe that it terminates at to the north at Lowe's, at the south entrance into the Lowe's property there. So the reason this path is really important to us is because this is a safety improvement project that's going to get kids to that school that were already walking along the side of the road. Prior to this was a dirt trail, basically. They call them goat paths, but it was a dirty, muddy trail that kids were walking in. And when it got really bad, they'd walk out in the street. So not only is this, this is a very important path for that reason. Next, we'll talk about the Rails to Trails bridge conversion. I would assume most people know about this project. If they don't, we're really close to it. You can go check it out maybe tomorrow or later tonight. So in 2014, the city of Rockford was awarded $740,000 by IDOT through the ITEP process in RMAP. This was to implement the Rails to Trails bridge conversion, which was the old Illinois RailNet bridge there, which was an active line not that long ago. So this awarded funds were matched, again, 20% match, $185,000 by the local, which was the city of Rockford at that time, bringing the project to $925,000. So you're starting to see how some of these projects actually, how much they actually cost. So again, this also included converting the bridge. It was, I think, 800 foot, and again, that was the Illinois Rail Bridge. It goes over the river. Ribbon cutting was not too long ago, but subsequently, since the ribbon cutting, they've actually finished the trail even more. If you're not aware, the trail kind of it started at Davis Park and it went across the river and it kind of just stopped there. Actually, it was a brownfields remediation site prior to that, so that's another kind of a cool point to know too, that this property is now being turned back to the public for use. But what I was gonna say is that connection from that bridge south on the east side of the river now brings you down the river, under the Morgan Street Bridge, and back up onto the multi-use path there. I actually did not even know that was done until recently. So I mean, that's amazing. So again, this is gonna hook people from Davis Park, from the west side of the river, over to the east side of the river, and it connects directly into the sports factory, which again, this helps economic development. People are gonna come to this region, they're gonna be at the sports factory, and they can go across the river now on a pedestrian bridge and see what's over on the west side. Here's another one. This is the Willow Creek Trail Extension. This is very recently completed. I believe this picture was taken maybe a month ago when it opened up. This is another great project. This was, the City of Loves Park and the Rockford Park District worked together with RMAP, and they were awarded $502,000 by IDOT through the 2014 ITEP cycle process. So you can also see that this awarded money was, a few years ago, and it takes you a few years to actually, implement the project and get it built. So these awarded TAP funds were matched again with a 20% match, which was $125,000. So why is this trail important? Well, first of all, it's got a parking lot and it's got a new trailhead that was not there before. So access to the Perryville Path is now very easy from this trail, because what this trail does is it hooks into the Willow Creek Path, which heads east and west, and we need those east to west connections, as most of us know. So this trailhead gives you a place to park where you couldn't park before. Prior to that, you had to actually park at like the dam and Rock Cut and go down across the Willow Creek Trail. So it's kind of an intermediary location between there and the high school up on North Alpine Road, which the Willow Creek Path connects into the North Alpine path that I just mentioned. So again, these projects are very thought-provoking projects in that they are, they're connecting other existing areas together, and that's what's important. That's what we try to do. So here's another recent project. So during the 2016 ITEP cycle, the Rockford Park District was awarded $2 million for the construction of a new bicycle and pedestrian underpass on the Jefferson Street Bridge here in downtown. As some of you, probably a lot of you know, especially us downtown, that bridge is very important, especially during the market season. I still forget that it's closed sometimes, but we've got the money, construction is gonna start, it's gonna be totally revamped, it's gonna be redone, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be amazing. So here's another one. So we have the Winnebago County Highway Department. This was awarded again in 2016 ITEP cycle, $984,000. This is for an extension of the Perryville Path. Where the Perryville Path currently ends, it's right by Rock Cut State Park, if you're aware. This is gonna be about 2.25 miles. I believe it goes up to Willowbrook. It doesn't go all the way to Swanson, but it's getting you there. It's that part of that, it's a piece of the puzzle. Just because you can't complete the entire project doesn't mean you still shouldn't shoot for something. This is a really important trail. Again, this is a north to south trail. This extends the Perryville Path up north of Rock Cut State Park, and it's our hope to then complete that next section north of there. After this, it will connect you into the Stone Bridge Path. So again, these are not just projects kind of just out in no man's land. These are all connection projects, and that's what we as an agency are really striving to do, is connect existing trails together.
What these questionnaires are meant for is to get more public input into our bicycle and pedestrian plan. We try really hard to get public input into all of our plans, making sure that what we're writing in our plans is what the public would like to see. So we try to get as much public input into them as possible. So the first question is just kind of, Which type of bicyclist are you? This kind of gives us an idea of who is providing the input, why they're providing the input, and just kind of some fun facts for our plan. Question 2, what are your favorite or most often visited trails and shared use paths? It's kind of good to know where these are. If a lot of people, it's their favorite, you can use these as major connections. So how can we connect these paths into different areas? This question is, what roads or areas would you like to see more facilities on? Or what areas need to be improved? This is giving us an idea of focus areas where we should try to look for prioritization, both in the short term and the long term. This is safety. A big push for us this time around is safety. How do we increase safety? What does the public, do they even feel safe on our current system? This is geared more to programs and policies. So not necessarily the infrastructure behind them, but how do we encourage bicyclists? How do we encourage education, schools to incorporate safety into their programs? And how do we just get more information out there to the public? And this question is, how would you like to know information about our planning process? We do bicycle pedestrian planning. That's a big focus right now. But there's a lot of other areas that we focus on, such as human service transportation, things of that nature. So we would like to know how the public would like to hear about these plans, how they would like to stay informed about these things.
The transformation is happening, right? And we're finding ways. This is identified a community. We said as a community, as a region, that this is important. This is part of it. And there's money associated with painting and associated with new paths, but just want to encourage you, the transformation is happening. It was just exciting to hear the dialogue tonight. Again, if you have questions, there's also boards on the side, and the team from RMAP, we're happy to talk with you, answer any questions. And then I would just say too, just the advocacy piece is so important. The policy changes that Scott, that you talk about, comes through both your work and then also the advocacy. Let's continue to do that, and we're moving towards being top 25. So thanks again for coming out. We'll see you soon.